Hi, and welcome to EDMU 521. This is Language and Literacy for the K Classroom Part 2. This course focuses on the English learner and instruction in literacy for grades 3 through 6. This course also fulfills some of the requirements for the English learner authorization. Recently, the CTC has changed and updated their TPEs, those teacher performance expectations. So because of that, all of our courses had to be updated to reflect those. And we just kind of thought that now is a good time to really completely overhaul and update 520 and 521. So you're going to see a lot of the content has changed, but you're also going to notice some of the format has changed. Blackboard has gone through a new update. And as we update these courses, we're going to be using Google Docs. And while this is kind of a learning curve and it takes a little bit to get used to at first, it is really worth it in the long run, because with Google Docs, if we need to make a change or an update in the future, we just make it on the main document, and then that change appears in all of the live courses. So it's really fantastic and saves a lot of time in the long run. So I just wanted to take some time to go through the new course, the new format, and take a look at some of the assignments. There's some new and some old that you'll see in this course. I want to start here with the instructor resources. This particular shell is the blended, but I tried to keep the blended and the online shells very similar. The difference will be in how the class is taught. A lot of the learning activities can be used by the instructor in the on-ground meeting, but for online students, they have to go through those independently. So let's take a look. You're going to already see what this different format looks like. What's nice is that these documents can be scrolled through right on the page, so you can read the entire thing without even having to open anything up. On this particular page, I wanted to bring your attention to this CII link. It's CII Faculty Support. And as an instructor at Brandman, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that you can attend these trainings. Some of them are tutorials, some of them are actual training sessions through Adobe Connect. But if you want to feel more comfortable with Blackboard or Adobe Connect, there's an advanced Adobe Connect or Google applications. There's all kinds of support here for you. Okay, so going back to the course information tab, we have some of the same ones that you've seen where you can put your information in for your welcome message and your instructor bio. And now we start, we have course at a glance. So again, students can scroll right through and see everything. However, I do know some students, they prefer to print this out and hang it on their bulletin board, so they can do that too. So you click on the course at a glance and it opens it up. So I'm just going to right click and you can print. Okay, you can also save as, so you have those options. Let's take a look at the assignments and points for this class, as a lot has changed. So let me try to scooch this screen over a little. All right, so the top three are the usual. The ELD standards activity is completely new. The RICA Google Slides, this is a continuation assignment from 520, and it uses the Zerillo RICA textbook. In this, and students actually create a slide presentation using Google Slides, and they can end up using it as a study guide for themselves as they prepare for the RICA. Every class, so 520, 521, 523, for all the methods courses, they all integrate a Google tool. So in 520, we introduced the Google Slides. And we're continuing with that here in 521, and you'll also see that we use Google Docs for an assignment in this class as well. This time for the Google Slides, they're only doing 3 weeks, whereas in 520 they did 5 weeks, so 3 weeks of the Google Slides assignment. There is just kind of a short little assignment, but really important, on sheltered instruction, due in week 3. And then the action plan, this assignment, if you teach both 520 and 521, you'll see this assignment is in both of the courses, and we'll look at this one in a moment. But it takes place of that instructional intervention plan that students had to fill out in the tutoring handbook in past editions of this course, where they really analyze the assessment data and come up with tutoring goals. So in week 5, they are to video record one of their tutoring sessions, and then they will analyze that video. Yes, that's big time. We have updated the literature circle unit. I think you'll like some of the changes that were made in this assignment. So we are keeping that. And then of course in week 7 we have the digital binder, and in week 8 the tutoring project report. So those are similar. The tutoring binder I think you will be much happier with. There's been some changes made to that. So let's take a look at some of these changes. Speaking of changes, there's a new textbook, and the reason for that was to really focus on reading instruction for English language learners. So what better text than one that's specifically for teaching reading to English language learners. I used that partly, so we probably go through about half of that textbook, and I also used the ELA ELD framework that was written by the CTC and authors for them, and it really shows how to integrate ELD standards and the ELA Common Core standards and apply that to instruction in your classroom. And I think as your students go through this material, they're going to find it really powerful, and it's also used in a lot of school districts. We continue using the Zerillo textbook in this course as well. So let's take a look at the assignment descriptions and rubrics and evaluations and all that good stuff. So again, you have your rubrics here. If you want to print them, you can. If you want to save them, you can. You have your journal rubric. So here is the first assignment. I'm going to see. There are certain documents that when you open them, they actually open in Google. This one isn't one. But this bottom part is an example of the assignment. So I think that will really help students figure out this assignment. The first week is strictly going over the ELD standards. They're pretty complex, so I think it's good to spend the time on that. I want to go over the RECA slide in just a second. The sheltered activity. What's nice is that if you click on the assignment, and if there are any links, you can just click on the link, follow the link to the IRIS activity, and as soon as my slow computer loads, we can go there. And then you open it up. And so all of the links are embedded into the assignments, and it will take you to wherever you need to go. And then the rubric is right here on that assignment. So this particular assignment, it opened up in a Google form. Now, all of the Google forms or the Google Docs that are used in the course, for students, they can only view them. They can't edit them. And the reason for that is if they edit the master Google Doc, it will edit and make those changes in every single one. So I've made it so that students can't do that because that would be a disaster. So they have a couple options. If they want to work in Google, if that's where they do their work and they're a Google person, they can save this to their Google Drive. And they just go to File and make a copy. And then they can have it for their own and edit it and do whatever. Now, many people are still not ready to plunge into Google. And so they can go to Download As, and look at that. They can download it as Microsoft Word document, a PDF file, and save it to their computer in those formats. And they can also print it. Okay, so anytime there's a document and it opens up like this in Google with the toolbar, they have a lot of options there. All right. So the 2T background and action plan, this is all part of the larger tutoring project. The tutoring project didn't change all that much, just cleaned up a lot. And a lot of the documents that are used have been updated. So this assignment, and students should be familiar with this. They did this pretty much exact same assignment in 520. So now in 521, they're doing the same thing, but looking at a different set of data, of assessment data. So now this is what students do in the beginning. They collect assessment data on their 2T in various formats. So they're doing an EL interview. They're using interest inventories. In this class, I've simplified the assessments in this course, largely because I didn't want students to have to purchase assessments. So I tried to find something that they could get online. And really that was the main reason. And in order to get a quality informal reading inventory or something, we would have to buy a license or something. And this just made more sense. And I think it's important that they really get a handle on how to administer a running record. So they're using running records in this course, and we're also focusing more on writing. So they're using a writing sample as part of their assessment data. So once they gather all of that data on their 2T, they're filling out the information in the chart and then coming up with goals for their tutoring sessions based on this assessment data. And of course, as many as you know, this will help prepare them to do the case study on the RECA exam. So again, they would go to File and either download as or make a copy and work with it in Google Docs on their own drive. So video analysis. Boy. Let's take a look. They have to pick one of their tutoring sessions, and it's fairly early in the course, and it's due in week 5. The reason for that is I didn't know where else to place it because we have such large assignments due in week 6, 7, and 8 that putting this with one of those would be chaotic for both the students and then for the instructors that have to grade all that. So this is due in week 5, so this is something you want to kind of give students a head up and kind of help keep them on track, you know, from the very beginning. There is a permission slip. They do have to get a permission slip for video recording and obviously to work with the 2T for tutoring sessions. So it's one permission slip all in one, so that's kind of nice. But this just goes through on what needs to be captured in the video and then what needs to be written in the reflection. There is a rubric, and then this is going to be submitted in live text. And the reason for that is to just further protect the privacy of having students and a child in a video. So putting it in live text just keeps it safer, but it makes the technology part a little tricky. So I did give instructions for everyone on how to submit it in live text. So this is a learning curve, but you'll get the hang of it. We do this in 523 already. So if you do teach 523, you should be a pro here. All right, so I'm going to skip the literature circle project just for a second because we're still talking about the tutoring. I'm going to jump right to, I'm going to just jump right to the tutoring. Oh, look what I just did. I just closed it. That really happened. Anyway, on the left in Blackboard, you will see a tab just for the tutoring project, which I think is really handy. And if you just give me a second to reopen this. So you'll see tutoring project right here. So the tutoring project handbook covers it all. So I think it's best to explain the project just going through that rather than all the separate pieces. Again, students can save this to their computer and they can print it. All right, so very similar to the old tutoring project, if we can call it that. It must be an English learner student, and it should be grades 3 through 6. They should be a struggling, so below grade level in reading. The English learner should not be a newcomer, so they should have a little bit of English under their belt in order to, complete the assessments and the tasks that we require in this course. And I'm not going to go through everything here. You can definitely read through the handbook, but I'll just talk about some of the things that are different. We have embedded into the tutoring project an English learner interview assignment. And rather than just interviewing the student and being done with it right away in week 3 like we did previously, I want our candidates to really get to know their tutee. And so the interview kind of lasts throughout the whole tutoring project. And at the end, in week 7, they submit their written English learner interview after they've really gotten to know the student. And so there are some prompts and some requirements for that in that assignment. You do have to keep track of your tutoring sessions in the tutoring log again. We talk here about the assessments. So the 2 assessments that are required in 521 are the running records and the writing sample. The lesson plan template is new. Let's see if we can pull that up really quick. I think you'll like it. I love it. We're going back to writing the reflection at the bottom of the lesson plan. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. And so students are required to submit 5 lesson plans for this tutoring project. So in here explains everything. It explains the timeline. So the tutoring binder evaluation has changed a little bit. This time, what they have to submit is that EL interview that I just mentioned, the lesson plans. There should be 5 lesson plans, and that's not including the pre and post assessment. Those shouldn't be lesson plans. I want to see actual tutoring lesson plans. And then the reflection. I'm sorry, not the reflection. The reflection's on lesson plan. The additional documentation are student work samples, the tutoring log sheet, and the permission slip. The permission slip here is super important, especially because we are video recording. So I think the tutoring binder is much improved. And then the tutoring project report is very similar from the last one. There are specific requirements that we ask, and then an FAQ section. Now you're going to see in the English learner interview, in the video analysis questions, and even some of these in the tutoring project report, some of the terms that are in there seem a little, I don't know, a little strange or kind of forced or awkward, but I want you to know that in all of our courses, in 520, 521, 523, all of them, we prepare our students to pass those TPAs, the teacher performance assessments. So in the TPAs, they do have to video themselves, and they have to write a reflection and answer certain prompts. So we embed some of that in the courses. So some of the terminology that they use in the TPAs, I have included in the assignments here so that they can become familiar with it and be more successful on those TPAs down the road. So this is the tutoring project tab. It has all of the information and the permission slip. I think you'll like this too. People have asked me for this and I have provided it. Assessment resources, all right here. Everything that they need for the running records and the writing sample. And then this right here, the tutoring lesson resources. They're like, well, where do they get ideas for their tutoring sessions? So I provided some resources of where they can find ideas and activities for their tutee. And you'll see here there is a permission slip in Spanish as well. This tab, RICA resources, these are just for students to work on their own time to help them prepare for the RICAs. You can mention it's there. You can use them if you're in a blended classroom and you have time and you want to do something with these, but these are mostly for the student. Okay, and I just want to look at the tutoring project. And to do that, I'm just going to open it up in week 6 here. You'll see a lot of this looks similar. There's the learning activities. Just so you know, all of the learning activities have been updated. I tried to find really practical and useful resources for our candidates. So go through them, see what you want to use for your Adobe Connect session maybe, or your on-ground classes. All right, and then you no longer have to put in all the dates, although I think it's a great idea to do that. So we have our readings, journal assignment. All of the discussions have been updated and switched and changed. So I tried to make sure, for the most part, that the discussion aligned with everything that we were talking about this week. So the Literature Circle project. Many of you have already done this. It's very similar. What I added was this wiki. So now students go to the wiki and they sign up for a book. The literature roll sheets are on Google Doc. So that means the whole literature group can work on the packets, on their own, and it's all on one document. Okay, so that's something we'll have to get used to, but I think you'll like it. So we click on the title here to bring us into the wiki. And I have chosen 5 books, and these are the books. I tested this whole process out when I taught it in the summer. And if you don't like these books, you change them. Super easy. All you do is click on this arrow, and you can change it to whatever book you like, if there are books that you prefer. I also mentioned that if you don't have a large class, you might want to reduce the number of options. All right, so students sign up under one of these pages, and there are instructions on how to do that right here. Okay, and then when I did this assignment and I had students have the actual literature circle discussion groups in Adobe Connect during weeks 5 and 6. The week 5 was the very first time I ever did it, and I asked for feedback, and they said they wanted more time, so I went from 20 minutes to 30 minutes in week 6. They really enjoyed it. Obviously, if you have a blended class, you have much more freedom to extend that time and change the format how you want. But I think it's important for students to participate as students in a literature circle discussion to really understand how to incorporate this popular strategy into their classroom. Okay. So please email me if you have questions or suggestions. I know there's going to be some things in here that we need to improve upon, and that is fine. And it will be hopefully a lot easier to do now because everything is in Google. So I would love to hear your feedback, and just be patient with the new technology. It is a bit of a learning curve. You know, I had never worked in Google, and then all of a sudden I did it all this summer, and the more I learned about Google, the more pleased I was, but there is still so much more to learn. Okay, so thank you all very much, and enjoy your term.